So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the topDNS Best Practice webinar, Improving Abuse Handling through Trusted Cooperation. There are still people joining the room. Please hold the line. The webinar will begin shortly. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Again, welcome to the topDNS Best Practice webinar, Improving Abuse Handling through Trusted Cooperation. My name is Lars Steffen. I'm the head of digital infrastructures and resilience at the ECO Association. And with me today, I have a great lineup of speakers to introduce you to the Trusted Notifier framework that we would like to discuss today. So with us is Alban Kwon. He is the co-founder and CEO of the Trusted Notifier framework. And also Manju Chen. She is the director of policy. And also with us is Swen Chen. He's the CEO of the .top GTLD registry, and he will share with us his experience with a TNN. Before we get things started, just a brief housekeeping rules. So this is a webinar. Of course, this will be recorded and the recording will be available shortly after the meeting. You're muted throughout the webinar, but of course, you're more than welcome to ask questions. So you can use the questions part of the GoToWebinar panel where you can type in your question. But of course, you are also more than welcome to submit your question verbally by clicking on the raising your hand button, and we will unmute you. And please state your name and your affiliation before you ask a question. After the webinar, there will be a short survey displayed on your screen. And of course, this is always a good opportunity for you to provide feedback, which information has been useful for you, and maybe also some ideas and suggestions where we can improve for future webinars. This webinar is part of the topDNS Best Practice webinar series. So topDNS is an industry-led initiative by the ECO Association with the main goal to find DNS abuse. And why we are doing this, so what we see is there's still much room for improvement to bring together registries, registrars, but also hosting providers, cloud service providers, CDNs, and other infrastructure actors to improve communication and collaboration when it comes to abuse mitigation, and to share good practice and also engage policymakers with our expertise from an industry perspective. And this goes in the same vein what the TNN is doing. And this is why we think it is great to have this collaboration and to learn what the TNN is doing. This is what Alban and Manju will share with us in the next few minutes. What topDNS is also doing is to reach out to ISPs. So we publish a monthly abuse report, which is complementary to what the NetBeacon Institute, for example, is doing for registries and registrars. So to complete the picture of the abuse landscape that we see out there, we do these best practice webinars like this one that you're currently participating in, but we do also workshops on site for industry, but also for policymakers. For example, we do regular workshops with the European Commission in Brussels, or you can meet us next week at the Nordic Domain Days in Stockholm, where we will hold the abuse workshop covering the evidence regulation, which will introduce some more obligations for infrastructure providers across the stack when law enforcement is requesting information and data for the investigations. topDNS, of course, is supported by a number of sponsors that you can see here on the screen. And if you will join us to our next best practice webinar, which still needs to be scheduled, but next time you will see a few more logos on this list. So this is an initiative that is currently picking up more support. Also from the hosting side of things, we have a few active partners on our side, and AV Test, who is providing the data for our abuse reports for ISPs. Though the sponsors comprise a number of individuals who make up our steering committee, some familiar faces from the industry, I guess, and if you would like to learn more about topDNS, please visit our website on topdns.eco or send us an email to topdns@eco.de. And last but not least, you can meet us next week, as already mentioned, at the Nordic Domain Days, where we will hold the abuse workshop on e-evidence. And if you're interested also in what has happened in the upcoming ICANN meeting and you don't have the time and bandwidth to cover the full ICANN meeting, ECO is always providing a readout webinar after each ICANN meeting, where you can learn in a condensed 90-minute session the main takeaways and key topics that will have to be discussed in Civil. And with this, I stop here, and I would like to hand over first to Alvan and Manju, who will introduce us to the Trusted Notifier Network. Manju, Alvan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, maybe let me start first, and then I'll pass on to Manju to go through the presentation itself. Very nice to meet everyone who has joined, and thank you very much for the invitation to allow us to talk about Trusted Notifier Network and also what we think would be helpful as well. So while Manju prepare for the presentation, I just want to mention, one quick thing that, this is a very new initiative, and it is supposed to be a global initiative. We see that when I work in the domain industry for the last 18 years, and I came from the more of the commercial perspective to, working in a corporate registrar, working directly with brand owners, and representing them to actually launching a bills. But I also get to know a lot of the registrar community, and I see how we have quite a different perspective when it comes to bills. And this is a trigger why I want to depart from my work and start this as a non-profit organization, to find a way that we can actually harmonize the ecosystem, from the notifier, the people who have lodged the complaint, to the internet intermediaries. Well, let's see if we can find a better way to work together that would be helpful for everyone. So this is what we set out to do in a nutshell. I'll pass the time to Manju to go through some of the details.
Thank you very much, Alban. So because we have a guest speaker that we would really love for him to share his experience as a member of the Trusted Notifier. So I'll try to be not so lengthy about my presentation. Thank you very much, Lars, again, for giving us this opportunity to talk about Trusted Notifier Network. Basically, we will go through four main themes today. First, we will briefly introduce what we are, who we are, and then we will share what we think, what Alban has touched on, but we will share more in depth of what we think is the problem that is now needing to be solved and what is our proposed solution. And at the end, of course, it will be a call to action. Join us, and we will let you know what kind of well, what requirements basically not for you guys as an intermediary to join us in the Trusted Notifier Network. So the Trusted Notifier Network, TNN, we are a not-for-profit organization. Our main objective, our main goal, aspiration is to improve the resolution of online harm, online abuse, and we do that by aligning the often competing interests of the parties involved in dealing with abuse, online abuse. We really want to reimagine and establish a new abuse mitigation process, which will deliver faster resolutions for the victims of abuse. But more importantly, also by doing this, in order to do this, we really need to reduce the cost and risk of intermediaries. We'll explain more why we think that's the main root cause of the inefficiency of online abuse mitigation now. And overall, we really want to raise the standards of due diligence, accuracy, and accountability of the abuse mitigation process, and which we believe will benefit the whole society and whoever is using internet in their daily life. So really what we see is the problem is that a lot of enterprises, their names are used for, all kinds of cyber attacks to attack users. But they, these big companies, although they're big brands, they're global companies, often than not, they lack the expertise to deal with these kind of DNS abuse or online abuse activities, because their main their main job is to sell their products to manage their customers, right? So often they outsource this kind of online abuse mitigation activities to those service providers on the market. They're either, brand protection service providers, or some of them brand themselves as takedown service providers. They pay these providers to deal with this problem for them. And these takedown service providers, although they call themselves takedown service, they actually don't really have the ability to take things down from online. All they can do is really they send takedown requests or abuse reports to intermediaries who really have the authority to deal with these problems. And because they're paid to send requests, they often value quantity over quality. And for a lot of abuse, even if they know that these kind of abuse reports are not accepted by whoever they're sending to, for example, there's some abuse that is more focused on the content. And if you send it to a domain registry, the registry will not have the ability to deal with it. Let me correct myself. They will have the ability to deal with this, but it's outside of their scope, and it is not the ideal way of dealing with this, because basically you're using a nuclear option to deal with an abuse that should have been dealt with in the content layer. But of these kind of abuse, they will still send these reports or requests to the wrong party, in a sense, not the most accurate party, because why not try their luck? It's free to send these notices anyways. So for the intermediaries, for registries or registrars, even ISPs, a lot of time they're overwhelmed by these requests or reports. A lot of them are just noises because they're not even within their scope of responsibilities. For them, dealing with these abuse reports is a cost for their, human source, their resources, their time, their money. Moreover, even if they have a lot of intermediaries have the heart to deal with this. They really want to because it's abuse. You want to deal with this. But you also bear the legal cost or legal liability if the information, the intelligence you act on is not correct. So you don't only have the legal risk, you also are bearing the reputational risk. And all of this is because the requests sent to you are abundant and because they're free. So basically, this is a vicious cycle. You know, so many noises, so many spams. You try to tighten your policy so it's less noises, it's less spam. You try to tell people what you really accept, what you don't accept. But since it's free to send requests anyways, people still send it. And if you don't deal with it, there are more requests, more complaints. It's just never ending. And not to mention, there's also this pressure from the government, right? They feel like, you know, people are not doing enough. They're not taking down what they think is the illegal content enough. And then they come up with regulations which in practice might not be as helpful for the whole ecosystem. So this is not a good situation overall. And how are we proposing to deal with this problem? Before going to that, probably we can start with what is deemed as a good abuse report. First of all, you have to have the actionability, which means that you have to send a report to the correct person, correct party who can deal with this. If it's at the DNS level, it's DNS abuse, it's sent to the registrar or ultimately registry. If it's a content abuse, it should be sent to a hosting provider who are able to deal with the contents. And evidence, you have to have enough evidence, specify enough to which specific domain, for example, is having the abuse. Then whoever is responsible to take them down can locate it and take them down. And of course, you have to draft out a nature and harm. It's very important for the intermediaries when they have to evaluate whether they will be willing to take them down, bearing the legal and reputation risk liability that we just talked about. And of course, report identity. They want to contact you when there's something wrong, right? And so what these come down to basically is accuracy of, you know, who you are reporting to, who is the right person who can deal with this, and accuracy of the content of the essence of the evidence that you're providing, so they intermediaries can take action. And also, you have to make sure they don't intermediaries are not only the one bearing the liability, because now they are. And it is because of this, they have to be more cautious, be more careful when they are evaluating the abuse reports. And how we're helping with this, we are creating a network of qualified trusted notifier. These trusted notifier will only be qualified as trusted, meeting a set of requirements. First of all, they have to verify before they send on any reports to us, TNN, and we will pass on to intermediaries. Second of all, accuracy rate have to maintain over 99%. And more importantly, to address the liability issue, every single abuse report from Trusted Notifier will have to include an indemnity promise from the Trusted Notifiers. And then they will send it to TNN. We will double check again whether all these criteria are met, whether it's verified, whether it's accurate, and whether indemnity is included in the report before we send it to the intermediaries. So what it was, how it is now is basically how you see it as on the screen. Enterprise are paying the service providers to send notices for free to intermediaries. And for now, the primary interests of both enterprise and service providers are just to remove the contents. So as we said, they're sending as many as possible, and intermediaries are buried by noises. At the same while, they are held accountable by the civil societies or their own customers if they act on the abuse and it's based on inaccurate info. But how it can be is really we come into the middle, we turn these service providers into trusted notifiers, and they have to meet the requirements. They have to verify before they send a report. They have to maintain the accuracy of the report, and then they have to provide indemnity in their report. And because they also have to pay a membership fee to be part of the Trusted Notifier Network, the best commercial interests of these Trusted Notifiers will become maintaining their Trusted Notifier status, because they know, and they're whoever are paying them to deal with this know that these status ensure their notices are dealt with in a prioritized basis. And by wanting to maintain this priority in their notices, they will ensure the quality of the notices, because that's the requirement for them to retain their status as trusted notifiers. Of course, because of the indemnity provided in the abuse reports, which will be passed on to the intermediaries via the MOU TNN have with intermediaries. Now, when customers or civil society want to hold some a party liable, they can come to TNN, and we can go back to the trusted notifier who has in contracts promised us indemnity, which will go back to actually enterprise, who bears the indemnity, the liability of the wrongful reports. So the circle completes. Everybody's best interest is to ensure the notices are at their best quality, are the best accurate, to make sure it still was with efficiency. And now those hackers, those separate attacks, they will render useless, because all of them will be timely mitigated, because now with the completed circle, it's easier to efficiently deal with abuse. So this is what we envision and can be. And more importantly, we really want to stress this indemnity part, because we know a lot of bigger registries or registrars, or bigger entities, they will have a whole team to deal with, security problems or abuse problems. But still, these indemnity problem is what we think the biggest problem that has to be solved. And we know, because, all these brand protection service providers or takedown service providers, they are indemnified by their clients when they sign a contract to deal with DNS abuse or online abuse for them, while they actually are sending requests to intermediaries without providing that indemnity. So by having a contract with trusted notifiers in which they provide indemnity, we are able to, through contract, pass on that indemnity to intermediaries, and also make sure that the liability from all those kind of regulations are in a sense diluted or mitigated, because of the indemnity now insured in the contractual chain. This is kind of like a UDRP thingy, so people will trust the process instead of going to the court first. And this is what we think will be the really a selling point, or like a highlight of what we're envisioning to solve in the Trusted Notifier Network. So in a nutshell, how this really works. Basically, trusted providers, they detected abuse, and then they will verify the abuse with the affected parties. And when then send abuse reports or notices to Trusted Notifier Network, which is us, they will have to ensure they meet the trust criteria, which is verify, indemnify, and we don't accept any 100% automated requests. It has to be non-automated and it has to be accurate. Accurate here really means that if we fulfill the due diligence and due process, the intel itself should not go wrong. And there's another party we'll be dealing with is the law enforcement agencies. As we have indicated in the previous slides, right? Sometimes governments they will develop regulations for problems they see or they feel is unresolved. So it is very important for us to involve them to make them feel like they are part of the solution. We will induct law enforcement agencies in the Trusted Notifier Network. But of course, it will be harder to require them to meet the same criteria as Trusted Notifier Network. What we will do is we will vet and review every request we receive from the law enforcement agency, human review, to ensure they meet the industry standards. And if only when they meet the standards, they will be passed on to intermediaries. So all notices from and to TNN should be codified and standardized. That's how we ensure all these processes are streamlined and efficient. And when then they are sent to the intermediaries, it's fully verified and it's fully indemnified. What we're hoping really for the intermediaries is reduce your cost. You no longer need to spend a lot of time or effort to verify the requests. You no longer have to, stand by for 24/7 just because they come, all the time, and you have to filter through the noises to find the real abuse notices. And also, you no longer is the sole bearer of the legal liability because indemnity is now passed on to you through our MOU, which will go back through all the way through the contractual chain to the affected parties. And what we're expected is really just intermediaries to prioritize dealing with the abuse they receive from the Trusted Notifier Network. Through this, we hope to restructure the commercial interests. So we reverse, in a sense, unfair cost transfer we were seeing now in the abuse system. So that was what we thought are the main problem and our proposed solutions. Now it's a call for joining us in the Trusted Notifier Network. As you can see on the screen, we already have quite several people who are interested in this idea and think this will go well. So they have already graciously joined us. And we also have a lot of people on the pipeline. We are already discussing the MOU. We have not signed yet, but all these parties are very interested in joining, and hopefully by expanding this network, we will more efficiently show the whole ecosystem how this can work, and we can further induct, people from the hosting providers and cloud providers, and in the future platform providers, because we all know that abuse is not only happen on the DNS level or domain levels, it happen in all levels. We can only effectively and efficiently deal with it when every single providers or every players in the internet ecosystem joining this network. So if you want to join, most importantly, I always kind of forget to mention this. So I put this to remind myself and remind all of us. For intermediaries to join the Trusted Notifier Network, it's free, because really our objective is for you to lower the costs, lower your burden to deal with abuse, so you have more confidence and feel more comfortable to act on verify DNS abuse reports, or just any abuse reports that you feel comfortable to accept. So it is free to join the Trusted Notifier Network if you're joining as an intermediary. If you join, what are the expectations? What we hope you can fulfill is really, first, to agree to treat notices from TNN as a matter of priority, and treat it as trusted, so an appropriate degree of confidence as to our accuracy. This is basically, we borrow from the EU. As you can see on the screen, I'm not going to read all of this. And one thing we want to assure the intermediaries is also that you always retain the final say. You decide what kind of mitigation you're choosing for the abuse reports that you are receiving. You decide whether you want to mitigate it, because there might be legal reasons or any other reasons that you feel like you evaluate and you consider, and you think that it's the best solution for this is not to deal with this. You have the final say, but we really wish you can provide us your feedback for how you mitigated the abuse and why you made your decision of whether deal with it or not dealing with it, because that also help us to improve how we triage the reports and how we communicate with our trusted notifiers. And we really hope everyone will join and participate in this multi-stakeholder governance process. We always welcome feedback from intermediaries of the policy that we are developing. We have already a policy, but we keep revising it according to the feedback or suggestions we got from the intermediaries who are in our network or considering joining our network. This should be a multi-stakeholder process, because we know that internet is composed of global multi-stakeholder community. It's only when we consider every stakeholder's interest that we ensure this network works for everyone. And what kind of abuse are we going to, will we be sending to you? On the green side is the abuse types that we are able to transfer to you if you choose to accept. The only mandatory one is, of course, the really technical DNS abuse ones: phishing, malware, botnets, farming, and of course, spam when it's a delivery mechanism of these four technical abuse. The optional ones, you will only accept them. You will only receive them when you tick accept in our MOU with us. Otherwise, it won't be sent to you if you didn't tick accept. And all of the political opinions or any contents that will related to freedom of expression or anything consistent with the Human Declaration of Human Rights will not be accepted by TNN and will not be transmitted to intermediaries in the TNN network. So basically that was it. Thank you very much. If you're interested in knowing more, please visit our website. It's trustednotifier.network, and you can find out more about it. We have a contact form on the website too, so you can come and contact us if you're interested in knowing more. Thank you very much. I'll wait for a lot of questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manju, and thank you very much for the introduction to the Trusted Notifier Network. I think before we jump into questions, what do you think about moving on to the experience part where we can, where Sven can chime in?
Sure. So should we start with the? We have a guest speaker here, CEO from .top. Now give that session to Alban and Stan to share more experience.
Sure. Sorry, I was talking and noticed I was on mute. So yeah, I think that would be good. Let's just the reason why we have invited Sven, CEO of .top, to come today. I think there are two main purposes. We want to see listen to a partner from the internet intermediaries community why they choose to join us. But also on the secondary purpose is that we look Asian, right? So I think one of the reasons why we want, one of the key things for TNN is that we want to make sure that we are able to access a bridge between APAC region as well. A lot of the initiative that we see has been initiated from the community, but I think it's fair to say that APAC participation has not been very good in the past. So this is certainly like a subsidiary, goal that we want to achieve to actually bridge that gap. And so today I think it would be a good thing for Sven to share his opinion and observation for you, because they operate mainly from they're based in mainland China. And what are their experience? What are the pain points? Why are they joining TNN? That's something that we want to share. So Sven will be speaking in Chinese, so we can have some local language diversity as well. And I'll translate for him. So Sven, I'll pass the time to you. Just stop when you can, and I'll translate.
OK。谢谢艾后本，那我就用中文来介绍一下，我们 Top 现在的这个滥用处理的情况。Top 域名呢是2014年上线，现在已经有接近700万的注册量，这么大的注册量，有滥用是很正常的，所以呢，我们也成立了一个安全团队，来专门处理 Top 的滥用的一些事件。我们目前采用的方式基本上是，采用了一个多渠道受理加人工合规审核的一个处理机制。具体而言有大概3个流程。第一个就是我们在 Top 注册局的官网 3w.nic.top 会有一个表单受理一些官网的投诉，有一个投诉通道。用户可以通过这个投诉来举报。第二个呢，就是我们
等一下，太长，我记不了，让我先翻译一下，你再继续啊。So So .top has been established since 2014. They already have about around 7 million domain name registered. So as you can imagine, with such a large domain registration volume, it would be quite normal to have certain level of abuse. Because of that, they have established a security team to handle all the abuses. So basically, at the moment, the .top domain abuse governance basically employ a policy that they call multi-channel acceptance plus manual human compliance check. So within this ecosystem that they establish, they have 3 main types of abuse channel to accept abuse. So the first one would be on the official website. They have a specific abuse channel in order to receive all the complaint directly via the main website. So Sven, please continue.
OK， 然后第二个我们会有专用的邮箱来受理投诉。那第三个我们自主研发了一个滥用域名的处理系统，这个系统呢是与海外的一些DNS 滥用的机构做接口对接 API 对接，然后获取了这个滥用的数据，然后我们再来做人工审核判定，最后再决定要不要去锁定它。
Let me translate first. So thanks. So the second method or channel would be via specific delegated email. So the delegated email will be a normal regular abuse channel for reporting. I think that's one of the norm. But the third one is the connection with overseas organization connection via API. So they have developed their own proprietary abuse management system, and that system will be connected to overseas organization via API to obtain abusive domain name data. So while they're receiving this data, they will be able to manually check that and then deal with the abuse within the zones. Sven?
OK， 以上3点就是我们目前处理滥用的主要手段。但是呢，这3个方面呢，其实我们也有一些痛点存在。第一个就是人力与时间的成本比较高昂，因为你要去靠人工去一个个去甄别这些滥用的情况。第二个呢，会产生误报和漏报的一些问题，因为这个因为每个人的这个学识水平，他对滥用的甄别是有限的，包括在这种高压和高负荷下，极易产生误判。所以第二个问题是误判的问题，第三个就是处理时效的问题，就是人工审核它每天处理的量是有瓶颈的，它有一些滥用可能会积压，所以呢，这3个方面呢是我们现在目前这套处理机制的3个痛点。OK。
So what we mentioned about are the 3 different methodology that they receive abuse and handle abuse, but they also have 3 different pain points that in managing the abuse. The first pain point would be that because they have a comprehensive abuse management system that is also involving manual work. The manual work and time costs are actually quite high as the domain name volume increase, and the abuse methodology employed by the abuser actually, they always have new methodology as well, and when they have to check that one by one by human, basically means that the company has to use a large volume of human and time cost in order to manage all this, and that create a tremendous operational pressure for them. The second one would be sometime within this large volume of abuse reports, it is quite frequent that it is quite reasonable that sometimes there will be some reports that they missed, or that they are unable to classify accurately as abuse. So because of the volume and the pressure that they face to speed up the whole process, it is easy to create this kind of mistakes as well. So sometimes it would result in misjudgment whereby a normal domain name got shut down, or sometimes they are unable to deal with sometimes some abuse just haven't been discovered. So that create a compliance risk for them. The third problem that they face is the abuse management time issues. So because of these human involvement in the process, it is natural that they have a resource bottleneck, and sometimes domain names just needs time to go through the system and being reviewed, so they are unable to achieve what they want to achieve, which is immediate termination of abuse, and then that's very hard to achieve. Ben?
OK，所以基于以上的痛点，我们在刚开始接触TNI 的时候，我们就表达了浓厚的兴趣，因为 TNI 能够解决我们这几个痛点。第一个，基于可信机制的这个前置判定，能够大幅的释放我们的人力。在可信网络里面，我们可以直接通过 API 接口直接锁定相关域名，而不用去做人工的甄别。第二个就是也降低了我们的合规判定的风险，提升了这个处理效率。依托 TNA 的这个可信源头数据，我们能够有效的规避我们现有模式下因为误报带来的法律和品牌的风险，同时打破人工审核的这个数量的瓶颈，使滥用域名的锁定处理更加便捷高效。第三，从被动响应向协同治理的战略升级，加入 TNA 不仅在操作层面上减少了人工成本，更是我们治理理念的一次升级。通过接入像 TNN 这样的可信网络，我们能够与行业前端建立深度的信任协同，对于提升我们在域名安全以及合规领域的专业形象与行业贡献力是非常有战略价值的。所以我们第一批就加入了 TNN 网络谢谢。
谢谢。So the last part is they have three reasons why they when they heard about the Trusted Notifier Network, they felt they're really interested in the concept, mainly because they think that TNN would be able to help them to and deal with the abuse issue in three different parts. The first part being that because of the trusted mechanism, and there are some upfront examination done by TNN as well. This kind of arrangement would help them to release a lot of the human costs that are causing them a lot of operational problem. Because of the mechanism and the validation that we have or they're inbuilt into that, they think that when the system work well, there's no need to invest into a large amount of human resources to deal with the abuse issues. And they can certainly using this kind of trusted data to improve the overall effectiveness as well. The second part would be about the compliance risk and to improve the the effectiveness, as I mentioned. I think the main point in the second point is about because TNN has the data are coming from a trusted source, and we help them to govern what trust is. So the indemnity that Mandrew mentioned about, I think what he mentioned is that this kind of model would help them to reduce the legal and reputation risk that bring out from a mistaken report. So this also helped them to break through the human bottleneck that they mentioned. So this is the compliance risk is the second key point. And the third point is actually quite interesting. What Sven mentioned is that they're saying that this is a more of a strategic upgrade for them from a more from a philosophical and governance perspective, because in the past their perspective is what can be described as a passive response. They receive a report and then they respond, and what they want to do through TNN is to kind of upgrade from a strategic perspective or from a governance perspective into a cooperative governance model. So they're no longer just passively responding, but working together as a community to manage all these abuse. So I think this is he mentioned that this is a governance concept upgrade. Well, I like this particular perspective. So this is and the cooperation model within the industry. It will improve the top security, compliance, professional image, and the reputation within the industry. So this is a very strategic. There's a strategic value into the cooperation. So thank you very much, Sven. That's very, very nice perspective. So I think Sven, any other last word before we pass on to the Q&A?
没有了，感谢你的翻译。
谢谢。So no further comments. So I'll pass the time back to you, Sven. Maybe last. So maybe you can continue with the Q&A part. Thank you.
Yes, happy to do so. So first of all, thank you very much, Sven, and for sharing your insights, and also thank you very much, Alvan, for the translation. So I think this was really insightful to learn from firsthand about the experience with using the Trusted Notifier Network. I would like to ask the audience now to come up with questions and to get things started. I would like to address a first one, because I don't see any hands raised and no question in the questions part yet. You have explained that you have different categories of abuse that the TNN would handle, and certain types of abuse are excluded. You have things like fake shops and also illegal gambling, for example, which still leaves, from my perspective, some room of gray area when it comes to different jurisdictions and also handling cross-border issues. How do you manage this broad field of gray area where a lot of minefields and landmines are scattered all over the place? How do you navigate this landscape?
Yeah, well, let me have a crack first, and Andrew can chime in as well. So in our concept, this is something that we are developing. But that's what you mentioned is certainly a big problem for the industry. So I think there are two approaches that we are. The two approaches that we're taking. The first approach is that in our concept we have the indemnity. This is something that the industry is missing at the moment. So when you talk about this kind of content abuse, we don't want to have the liability. It's not like that. We don't know a counterfeiting website is bad, and it is probably not good for the society. But it's just that legally, how do we actually navigate this? So I think the indemnity with the first foundation that we need to reestablish as a community. When we have the protection, we can then act according to what we see best for the society, and that's a foundational concept in Section 230 as well. So protect us so we can act. So we are to reestablish that protection for the community. The second part is that we are thinking about establishing a matrix under a multi-stakeholder model. So that matrix is basically that we want to list out in major jurisdictions around the world what are the legal implications, what are being called as the illegal, for example. Now, this would be helpful because if we have something like this that is produced by a multi-stakeholder model that we agree and are comfortable with and check with the relevant authority for the accuracy as well, then we have some basis for us to really follow, using the GDPR kind of paradigm. We can then think about, hey, this is definitely a Japanese language website, and I know that this particular type of problem, say a gambling site, is illegal in Japan because this is against the law. At the very least, we have a legal framework to think about whether we should do it or not. And a company that's with the indemnity that we built, I hope that in the future we would be, as an industry, move forward to resolve more of this problem. Sorry, one more point is that the problem shouldn't be dealt with by the domain community alone. So one of the key concepts in TNN is that we have to extend the whole cooperation beyond just domain name into hosting service provider, the numbering community, the social media, the internet platforms, and ISP and stuff like that. So only if the cooperation model expand beyond domain industry that we can actually allow the procedural due diligence to properly work. Because at the moment, if it is a problem that is defined by the LEA or the general community, they need that abuse to be taken down regardless of the definition. If we are unable to resolve this, they will always come back to us because we are, the domain community is the easiest to find. And probably more regulated than the others, so they always come back to us. So expand the network is the third one. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Alban. That's definitely also one of the key elements of the work at topDNS to educate community members that registries and registrars don't hold the silver bullet to mitigate online harms. And one other element that I wanted to ask is so that you process your abuse reports manually to do the due diligence and all the checkups to be as accurate as possible. But one element that the community and also the industry is currently discussing is scalability, because we face an increasing volume of abuse out there. So how will you manage to keep up balancing out your processes and facing an abuse landscape that is building on automation, AI generated content, etc., etc.?
Great questions. I hope I have a better answer, but I don't. But what I can do is to tell you what we think in principle, because this has always been a balance, right? How much
the devil's advocate questions.
Yeah. So what we think is that there are two ways of us to manage abuse. The first way is through a technical means to check based on evidential data, and then we objectively determine whether this is abuse or not. Now, this is certainly important, and we're not replacing that part. The other side is that how do we actually make, but when you think about technical evaluation, by definition, it is based upon distrust, right? It is more of a zero trust kind of paradigm. But internet is built on trust. I think it's impossible to define and technically identify every single type of abuse, because abuse by nature is a gray area, right? It is tricking people. You can't really define it. There are millions types of variation to it. If so, on top of the technical evaluation, which needs the AI, needs the technical capability to handle, we need to build a human element and a trust element on top of that. Now, the idea is basically this. At the moment, for every single report, there are two evaluations being done. One by the notifier, like the service provider. They did their own due diligence and And then on the other side, the second one would be from the internet intermediary. They did the exact same evaluation. So we double up the cost, double up the time, double up everything, basically. Now, we're not proposing to reduce the system from the internet intermediary. We need that safeguard still. But what if we can, through TNN, also make sure that the initial evaluation are done properly because of the commercial realignment that Manju talked about? They are already doing all the right thing. So when they are when the first evaluation and the assessment can be trusted, all we need to do on TNN is to make sure that we can basically assess whether it is done properly. We don't need to be a heavy loaded technical evaluation that replace the registry own system and stuff like that. So by doing so, I'm hoping that we can strike a good balance between the human evaluation and the AI evaluation. We do have a system as well. We're not human review everything, but this is a question that when we have more cases and the resource balance become more of a apparent problem, we may be able to give you a better answer. But in principle, we hope that we are lightweight in that sense, because we're building that human and the trust part.
And thank you very much for providing the details. I know that this is a challenging aspect of the work that you are doing, that we are doing, and there's a lot of gray area and a lot of challenges still out there, as you rightfully mentioned. And I'm glad to see that even though more and more initiatives like the TNN are coming up and say we accept the challenges and we would like to contribute to make the internet a safer and better place. So and trust is the key element in doing this, and doing your work properly. I think is the most important part to build that trust and keep that trust. So well taken. We have reached the top of the hour, and I don't see any hands from the audience. So I would like to thank you for introducing us to the Trusted Notifier Network. Alban, you will also be at the Nordic Domain Days next week in Stockholm. So I'm looking forward to meet you in person again, where you will also do some more outreach to the audience there. Thank you very much for Sven, also for joining us today and taking the time to provide first-hand experience working with the TNN. I think this was very helpful to understand, and also to reach out to new partners. And with this, the session is adjourned. The recording will be available shortly after the meeting, and we are looking forward to learn more in the future from your work and experience, and working with you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alban. Thank you, Manju. Thank you, Sven.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.